All right, welcome to math class. Friday we did an activity about surface area of rectangular prisms, and today we're going to be doing that. We're going to be dealing with rectangular prisms, so finding surface area. You should have your pink notes packets out, and once again, remind you, did you submit your assignment 123 IXL? I believe it was X1, X2, and X3. And I would like you to try this challenge question, so if you're in class, go ahead and pause this and then try the challenge question. The challenge question asks you to select all the expressions that are equivalent to, and you have that listed. And so here are the answers to that. So the correct answer is A and C. And in this case, what you notice is this one involves distributive property. And so if you start with this first one right up here that they gave us right here, and you notice you have parentheses. Whenever you see those parentheses, you should be thinking distributive property. And so you're going to distribute positive 5 in, and so positive 5 times negative 4 becomes negative 20x, and 5 times positive 12 is positive 60. This is the tricky one. You had to distribute a negative. There is no number, but it's really like negative 1. So it's negative 1 times x, which is negative x, and negative 1 times negative 3 gives you positive 3. So when you combine your like terms, now, if you notice, C is this answer right here. So when you look at that, there's your answer for C. And now we combine our like terms, and I have positive 3, I have negative 20, negative 1. And so negative 20 and negative 1 gives you negative 21, plus the 3 gives you negative 18x. And then we had positive 60, and positive 3 is 63. So A and C. As we approach iLearn, that's just one of those questions that kind of, they like to ask you those type of questions. And so being able to work backwards and find multiple answers is important. Okay, today we're going to talk about surface area. When we talk about surface area, we are talking about finding the area of all of the surfaces. Now, we are dealing with rectangular prisms only, and so what's important to recognize is there are two parts. You're going to find the area of the bases, and you're going to find the area of the lateral faces. When we talk about the lateral faces of any shape, it's the label. So when I say the lateral faces, that would be the label. That doesn't include the top and the bottom. All right, so that's what's in blue in this picture. Now, what's unique about a rectangular prism, which is important for us to recognize, is that pink top. Okay, you're going to have a top that is the same as the bottom. Okay, they're exactly the same. And so the top is the same as the bottom. You also have a front, all right, which is the same as the back. And so you can see those. And then you have the two sides. You have 6 faces, and so you have a right side, which would be exactly the same as the left side. And that's what makes a rectangular prism unique, in that your top and the bottom are the same, the front and the back are the same, the left and the right are the same. I want you to recognize also that you have a length, you have a width, and you have a height. And we talked about that on Friday as well. All right, so that is the net. I'm going to clear that out so you can see. But that is what the net of this rectangular prism would look like. And you can see in blue would be all those lateral faces. And we can use the net to help us find surface area. So as we mentioned, a net can be used to help us determine the number and the kind of faces of a three-dimensional figure. A net is a two-dimensional pattern that folds to create a three-dimensional shape. And so you can see that is the example of the rectangular prism's net once again. So you notice you have two sides that are exactly the same. You have a front and a back that are exactly the same, and you have a top and a bottom that are exactly the same. All right, so we're going to be using two methods of finding surface area. So surface area, once again, is the area of all the faces. Now, we have two ways. Number one, we're going to draw all the faces, find the area of each face using our formulas over here, and adding all those faces together. Method number two, and you want to put a star next to this, is the surface area of a rectangular prism formula. So we're going to come back and look at that one in a moment, but we're going to go ahead and do our example one in two ways. So method one, we're going to just draw it out. And so what I like to do is we're going to trace it out. And so we have 6 faces. And so if I just trace this bottom right now, okay, I'm going to label that the bottom, which is going to be the same as the top. And so if I look at that, it's going to rectangle, and it's going to be base times height or length times width, and let's just talk base times height for now. And that's going to give me 3 times 5, which is 15. But it's also, so that's the bottom, but that would also be the same as the top. So I have the bottom, which is the same as the top. So there's going to be 2 15s. I need to add to that. Let's do this one right here, and it's nice to trace them. You can see that this would be my front. And so if I did the front, as I trace those dimensions, it's going to be, we'll just go base times height again, because it is it's a parallelogram as well. So it's just, and this would be 3 times 6, which is 18. Well, that is the front, but it's also the same as what you see on the back, and so it would be 2 18s. Then we have our sides. So we have, if I were to trace this in blue, you would see this right side. Okay, and so if I did the right side, it's going to be base times height, and that is going to be a little bit harder. So this is 5 along the bottom, but the height is right over here, which is the same as this height, which is the same as this height, which is 6. So it's 5 times 6, which is 30. Well, that would also be the same as the left side, which would also be 30. And so we're going to go ahead and add those together. And if I had 30 and 30, that's 60. 15 and 15 is 30, so that's 90. And then that's going to be 36. So we have, if we did this all right, so we would have 90 plus our 36, which is 126. So our total surface area would be 126, and in this case it would be inches squared. So that's method 1. Now, you could also kind of, well, if we did a kind of 3 methods, since I have the net, you can see that this would be 15, 3 times 5. Well, this is also going to be 5 times 3, which is 15. You could see that all of these are going to be 6. Well, that's going to be 5 times 6, which is 30. This is 5 times 6, which is 30. And then you have this one, which is 18 and 18. And you can see that I could add those all together. And once again, you're still going to get 126. Now, because it's a rectangular prism, there is something unique about it. We can use this formula here. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and talk through this formula. And formulas are, quite honestly, the easiest thing for you to use if you understand how to use it. So we're going to go ahead and write SA equals, and we're going to copy it down exactly as it is, 2, and then we're going to write LW plus LH plus, and I'm running out of room, WH. I'm going to erase this real quick so I have a little bit more room. And, all right, so we have WH here. All right, now, and then parentheses. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to bring down what I know, which is 2, and I'm going to go ahead and erase this again just so it's a little bit easier for you to see. And what you need to understand is, as we talked on Friday, we talked about length, width, and height. So I'm going to label this. This 3 is my length, the 5 is my width, and the 6 is my height. Now, it's as simple as every time I see the letter L, I'm going to write that number. So the L was 3, the W is 5. Then I'm going to bring the plus sign down. Then I go back to L. L is 3, H is 6, and then I'm going to add, and the W was 5, and the height was 6, and now I have all of that. Now, I want you guys to see real quick what that really was. Well, the 3 times 5 is really this, which is my bottom, and so that's 15. All right, bring everything else down. The 3 times 6 is the, well, if I trace it, 3 times 6 is the front, and that's 18. And then I have, finally, the 5 and 6. Well, that 5 and 6 would be this side, which is 30. And notice, if you look back up to the top, our bottom was 15, our front was 18, and our right side was 30, and we're going to add all those together. So you have 33 plus 3 is, or 30 is 63 times 2. Well, that was just adding the front, or the front, the side, and the bottom. but obviously there's 2 that are identical to each one of those, so we get to multiply it by 2, and I get 126 inches squared. So you can use the formula for a faster method to use it, to go through. All right, so as we look at this one, all right, I'm going to quickly, I'm going to draw it out real quick. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do it in both ways once again. So if I trace this one out, that's my front. So this is going to be my front, and my front would be base times height, which is going to be 18 by, and this is 4, so this is 4, and that would be 4, so that's going to be 18 times 4. And so we go 18 times 4 and get 72. Well, that's going to be the same as the back, and so I'm going to have 72 plus 72. I'm going to add to that, and sometimes it's nice to do a different color. So base times height, and I'm going to go this one, which is my side. Okay, so this might be my right, and it really doesn't matter what order you're doing them in. And so base times height would be 12 times 4, which is 48, and I'm going to add another 48 because that's going to also give me my left side. All right, and now I'm going to do the last part that I haven't done yet, which is, in this case, I'm going to look at it as it's the top, and that's going to be the same as the bottom. So the top would be base times height, and so it's going to be 18 when you trace it by 12, and 18 times 12 is 216. So you have 216, but you have to add that in there twice. All right, so we have 216 plus 216 plus 48 plus 48 plus 72 plus 72 for a grand total of 672 meters squared. Now that's, all right, fairly straightforward. Some of you, that will make a whole lot more sense, breaking it into those shapes and tracing it. Others of you, you're just going to go ahead and we look at that shape. It's a rectangular prism, and honestly, I think it's the easiest way to do this is to use the formula that they give you. So you just copy down the formula. You guys have your formulas in your formula sheet. And now we're going to label. We need to label. This is my length, this is my width, and this is my height. Now, technically, it does not really matter what you call what, because you just have to use the numbers each one time. So now, my length, or you're going to use each length, width, and height once. So 18 is my length. That's the L. Now, my W is 12. So I'm going to do times 12 plus my length, which is 18, H, which is 4, and then my width, which is 12, and my height, which is 4. And now I'm going to go ahead and do all of that math. So I have 18 times 12, which is 216, which notice that was the same as the top and the bottom. So that was finding the top and the bottom when you did length times width. The length times the height gives you the front, which is 72, plus 4 times 12 is 48. 12 times 4 is 48, which would be the sides. And now we add those all together. All right, we're going to add those all together, and you have 216 plus 72 plus 48, which gives you 336. And then you're going to multiply it to figure out that your surface area, once again, is 672 meters squared. So you may use that formula on every question. You don't have to draw it out like I kind of did there and color it. Or if that didn't make, if the formula doesn't make sense to you, then feel free to use the other method. Okay, so your homework is actually page 5 and 6. You're going to skip page 4. Those notes are for later. But you're going to go to page 5 and 6, and you're going to do those. Now, for example, on number, so read the directions on 1 through 5. Number 6, you will notice that you can draw a net or use a formula. Formula's up here at the top of your paper. On the back, number 8 and number 9, you have a net drawn. So you can use the formula, or you can just break it in and find the areas of each one and then go from there. Okay, and then you have a couple problem-solving questions, once again. Then sketching a picture on those sometimes are helpful. So that is your homework, and have a good day.